for tips and traffic updates. That's what we do as Good Morning Uganda. Now, we have been speaking about something right before we went on air, and of course it has something to do with the head of Ndiga clan, Engineer Bossa, that was gunned down on Sunday. And news coming in shows that the people who killed him are actually also people from the Ndiga clan. But I digress a bit. Today in Uganda, it has become so common for people to move around with guns. And in most cases, you won't know if they have these guns rightfully or if they do not have these guns rightfully. Because we have security agencies, you're going to find an askari with a gun, and if they are wearing plain clothes, you may think that maybe they are off duty, that's why they have a gun, and probably they have it rightfully. Yet we know that in Uganda, you can only have a gun if you have been given a license to carry one by the government. So where are these people getting the guns that they are using to kill people? A police report from 2023 showed that last year we had over 4,000 shootings in the country. That number is alarming. Welcome back, Chirava Robert.
Thank you so much. I'm happy you guys, you've been doing a very good job. I've been enjoying sitting, of course, week, but seeing what the young lad and the beautiful ladies are doing here. And of course, our viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Now, first to begin with, you talked about the question, where are the guns coming from? It is very saddening that we lost the head of the Ndiga clan. But one thing that at least we have relief over is, first, the gun was recovered, and the exact gun that shot. Now, security agencies must be accountable to Ugandans this time round and tell them where the gun came from. How did it get in the hands of these people? Because we know most of the guns were marked. This was an AK-47. Most of these guns were marked, the president directed, so it's easy to account for a gun. Is it among the illicit weapons that are on the market? Is it from the UPDF? Is it from police? Is it from prisons? Because AK-47 is not a usual weapon given to people who have licenses. They usually give them other guns because of the danger and nature of an AK-47. So we need to know. The world is waiting. Ugandans are waiting to know the source of that weapon, where it came from. So that will answer. Then also ballistic experts to tell us from the police forensic lab and all that. Has it been the gun used in the previous crimes? Remember when we saw the shooting of Pastor Bujingo, Ismail X, they say the pistol is the same. So we are so eager to know more about that. But by and large, we continue to call upon people to be vigilant, because these young fools, I want to call them that. Sometimes His Excellency gets upset and uses the word PIG, you know, because more or less they are that. Were able to be arrested and one killed because of public vigilance. These one security forces that arrested these.
And speaking of public vigilance, the Member of Parliament from Chira Municipality yesterday during plenary asked why it is that for over 3 kilometers the assailants were being chased not by security agencies but by civilians. Where was the police? Where were the security agencies? How much time does it take them to get to an area, to a crime scene? These questions must be answered, because as Ugandans, if you tell us that you're here to safeguard our peace and maintain security, law and order, where are you when Ugandans need you? These are questions people are asking, and these are questions that were on the floor of Parliament. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Yes, good morning, Monica, and good morning to you, our dear viewer, wherever you're catching us from. And, well, that is a very good question, because you also look at it in this way. Most especially on Sundays, it's very difficult to actually access the security personnel in the country. Especially if at all you want to report crime. I'm not saying it's you won't find police open, but it will be difficult to file cases, simply because it's a weekend. I don't know if that is how the security, operatives have actually put it in their mind.
That they shouldn't work over the weekend.
That all the weekend does seem to be a very less chaotic kind of, atmosphere in Uganda. But then you do realize that in such incidences, this is where you have to ask if Ugandans, if at all it wasn't for the mob to take charge, then that means this time around we wouldn't have a clue of who might have done this particular act,
like in some
killing.
other cases. Yes.
And so I think the members of parliament who are siding with this are also right on an account that if at all you are to promote law and order in society, then it should be 24/7. It should be available when people need it. You need to create that trust where people will come in and know that regardless of the environment I'm in, if at all there is any sort of emergency, the police or the army in any circumstance will come in and help us or bail us out, because that is the Uganda we all deserve.
Indeed, it is the Uganda that we deserve. So members of parliament were on to the money when they raised these questions, because many Ugandans, especially if you go to social media apps like X, you'll find that they've been asking the same questions. They're wondering, this is the capital city. This murder happened in the capital city, but it took police time. Yet, another query that was raised when it came to members from the opposition, the leader of opposition visiting a certain facility, every hour, every few minutes, there was a different outfit from security agencies coming onto this site. So they wondered, is it more important to go to certain facilities than to safeguard the security of Ugandans? Those are not my questions. These are questions by Ugandans to security agencies. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. You posed a very important question, but just to give someone a bit of statistics, we have about 52,000 police officers in the country, or slightly above. And when you look at 52,000 vis-a-vis the 47 or over 45 million Ugandans, you realize that the ratio is about 1 to 832. So that means the ratio is quite imbalanced, and that now gives a bit of an answer as to why it takes a bit of some time. Now, in certain developed countries, there is police patrol going through different parts of towns and cities, and that is why there is quicker response. Also, even when you contact the toll-free lines or the lines provided, the response is a bit faster. So in this case, the challenge comes in when it comes in from one, the number of security officers that we have; two, the patrolling that we should be doing, but also the budget that should be facilitating some of those activities may not be readily available
and also,
to our
Chantal,
officers in the country.
Internationally, it's supposed to be 1 policeman per 500 people. That is the recommended international level of policing, that where there is 500 people, there should be 1 police personnel. Right. But when it comes to Uganda,
it's 1 to
still
830.
work in progress.
I hear you, Chirabo, and I hear Chantal, but Ugandans are like, this was a shooting, not a petty crime, a shooting. But
the question is,
the question is,
yes.
And the police post is not far.
And
you know, this is Lunguja.
Yes.
If you're coming from Rubaga or Rubidi, senior secondary school, and you're entering that road of Lunguja, this is Salt, where there's Salt FM. Just next is a police post, an active one, and that road is well tarmacked,
right?
You know, well connected. It becomes this just for this time.
Well, maybe you could cite some bits of course or some bits and pieces of complacency here and there.
They should have standby. Did he call them task forces? That every police post, there should be men and women ready to react immediately.
I almost said standby generator.
Just one thing.
The Holy Alliance.
Usually when you move around, you're going to, I think it's uncommon for you as you move around to find security personnel along the roads, okay?
Doing patrol.
Doing patrol.
Yes, it's very uncommon.
Exactly. No, it's very common.
The patrol
in
that they
this
normally
country.
do is when they're
traffic-
asking for money.
It's the
Not
traffic.
traffic, not traffic.
And then I've barely
men in
seen,
uniform.
I've barely
Even
seen
those
men
on
in uniform.
motorcycles. But the problem
Except
is, I
the
think
military in
their
town,
interests
when we
are
have
not
events.
our
Still
interests.
security personnel,
The
right?
difference is when it comes to interests. The government of Uganda provided them with motorcycles. Now, most of those people on those motorcycles should be walloped seriously because their interests are very different. They should be paraded and caned thorough. Their interests are very different
Very
from
different.
security.
Well, from what I hear, Mr. Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono is in good health. There is proof of life.
And he's
back.
not amused.
He's
Just
back.
one more thing, Olive.
Exactly. He's back and with a vengeance. And with that, he will take us through our first local news story.
Well, we'll begin with corruption because indeed I smell corruption here when it comes to these people on motorcycles. Now, the Deputy Inspector General of Government, Dr. Patricia Ashen, has urged youth graduates to design new innovations targeting to combat corruption. Dr. Achan was officiating at the Career Guidance Seminar at Uganda Christian University organized by the True Inspiration Generation Network Africa. That aims at equipping university students on the transition from school to the field of work. The True Inspirational Generation Network Career Development Program aims at ensuring a smooth transition of students from school to the crowded job environment with the ability to make informed decisions. The capacity building seminar attracted students from the field of law and that of medicine, emphasizing ethical codes governing these professions. The Deputy Inspector General of Government, Dr. Patricia Achan, rallied youth professionals towards fighting corruption.
Well, moving on, the National Records and Archives Agency has been dissolved by Parliament. In the ongoing rationalization move, Parliament on Tuesday morning passed the National Records Amendment Bill 2024 into law. The intended law will shift the functions of the then National Records and Archives Agency into the Ministry of Public Service. The Minister for Public Service, Mururi Mukasa, welcomed the move by the August House. The members of Parliament failed to proceed with some of the bills which certificates of financial implications were unidentified. Managing Uganda's archival records will be the responsibility of the Ministry of Public Service if the President agrees with the Parliament's unanimous decision to pass the National Records and Archives Amendment Bill 2024. The Tuesday morning session, chaired by Speaker Anita Annette Among, deliberated and succeeded with the dissolving of the National Records and Archives Agency, which had the mandate to preserve and manage Uganda archival records, which are the national documented heritage for culture, research and historical values. The Minister for Public Service, Mururi Mukasa, welcomed the move, which fits well into the objectives of rationalization, intending to cut government expenses and end duplication of roles. The session also witnessed Parliament discontinuing a section of bills under rationalization, including National Information and Technology Authority Bill, Karamoja Development Agency Bill, among others. The members of Parliament interested the Speaker on the undefined certificates of financial implication and hence withdrawing the respective bills.
Moving on, the Office of the National Chairperson of NRM Party, working closely with the Secretariat, has extended an invitation to members of the general public to turn up in big numbers today and welcome the party chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, as he heads to the Secretariat to commission party activities. Tuesday, which was yesterday, saw the NRM Secretariat at Plot 10 Chadondo Road in a fanfare arrangement to receive the party chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, as they are very ready To supplement the mobilization task force, the most donkey work is being done by the Chambogo-based office of the national chairman. According to NRM leaders, a selected member of the general public will be given access to the meeting venue, with the remaining members being urged to line along major routes to cheer the president.
Now, speaking matters mob justice, subjecting mob justice to any suspect alleged to have committed any offense is not only committing an offense too, but this in turn also hinders justice to both the victim and the suspect. This comes at a time when a suspect alleged to have killed the Ndiga clan head, Engineer Daniel Bosa Ruomwa, was subjected to mob justice by the community during arrest. Our reporter has more details, and he says that mob justice is a form of extrajudicial punishment or retribution in which a person suspended of committing an offense is beaten with anything they can lay their hands on, and at most times these actions are usually done by a crowd. In some cases, the alleged criminal dies in the process due to excessive beating. Under Article 28 of the Constitution, any person is presumed innocent until proven guilty, and for one to be subjected to killing before being taken to any court of law, he who does that commits mob justice under the law. Well, it goes without saying that mob justice, it should not be embraced, because sometimes victims are actually innocent. So all Ugandans, we must be vigilant and not take the law into our own hands. Well, with that, Chantal Olive, what do you have for us in the international news?
Well, internationally, we are still speaking matters Israel and Gaza. And, well, by the look of things, the president of the U.S., that is Joe Biden, and the prime minister of Israel, that is Benjamin Netanyahu, are having a bit of a conflict where the prime minister believes that over 80% of the U.S. people in the U.S. actually support Israel. And popular support for Israel in the U.S. will help it fight until total victory over Hamas, that is according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, in a statement, Mr. Netanyahu cited polls showing that more than 80% of Americans support Israel during the conflict in Gaza. His comments come after U.S. President Joe Biden warned that Israel risks losing global support in the war. U.S. officials say they are working on a possible ceasefire deal. In his statement on Tuesday, Mr. Netanyahu said since the beginning of the conflict, he has been leading a campaign countering international pressure to end the war ahead of time and mobilize support for Israel. We have significant success in this area, Mr. Netanyahu added, citing a recent Harvard-Harris poll showing that 82% of American public supports Israel. This gives us more strength to continue the campaign until complete victory. On Monday, Mr. Biden said the U.S. hopes to have a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza by Monday next week. The U.S. president also suggested later on that Israel could lose support from around the world if it keeps up with this incredibly conservative government they have. Another poll from the Associated Press and NOC found that about half of U.S. adults in January believed Israel had gone too far, up from 40% in November. White House and Department officials on Tuesday confirmed that negotiations on a temporary ceasefire were continuing, but declined to give details on the substance of the talks or potential timelines. Away from that, several NATO countries, including the US, Germany, and the UK, have ruled out deploying ground troops in Ukraine after French President Emmanuel Macron said nothing should be excluded. Mr. Macron said there was no consensus on sending Western soldiers to Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has warned of direct conflict if NATO troops deploy there. Russian forces have recently made gains in Ukraine, and Kyiv has urgently appealed for more weapons. Mr. Macron told a news conference on Monday evening that there might be a need for security that then justifies some elements of deployment. But I've told you very clearly what France means as its position, which is strategic ambiguity that I stand by. The French leader was speaking in Paris, which is hosting a crisis meeting in support of Ukraine, attended by heads of European states as well as the US and Canada. Moving on, prominent Zimbabwean opposition politician and former finance minister Tendai Biti has been given a $300 fine and suspended 6 months jail sentence after a magistrate found him guilty of verbal assault. The court said he had shouted at a Russian businesswoman in 2020. During the 4-year-long trial, witnesses testified that Biti, a top lawyer, advanced towards Tatiana Aleshina after a court hearing in 2020 and called her and pointed a finger at her in a manner she believed was threatening. Biti denied the accusation and had argued that the charge was not valid. Biti's lawyer Alec said they were extremely disappointed but not surprised by the sentence. They plan to appeal the charge and conviction. And lastly, has reportedly cancelled its plans to build electric vehicles a decade after the iPhone maker was rumored to be working on the project. The firm has never publicly acknowledged the project, which involves around 2,000 people. Many employees from the project will be moved to the iPhone maker's artificial intelligence division, according to Bloomberg News. Apple did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The Apple Car team was reportedly known as the Special Projects Group as part of its chief executive Tim Cook's Project Titan. As it spent billions of dollars on research and development, the company was initially rumored to be working on a fully autonomous vehicle without a steering wheel and pedals. The team was understood to still be years away from producing a vehicle. That does it for international news.
Well, as we have unpacked the international news for you this morning, we still have more coming in from the press with Joram Paul. What do we have today?
And well, starting off with the New Vision, Uganda officials probed over murder, according to what the New Vision is highlighting. Now, police links 6 leaders to killing of clan head. And also, education, government drafts new school fees law. You can also read about why government salaries will delay, according to the public service. Then agency managers, government withdraws 8 bills as storm leaves residents homeless. A pictorial of some of those who are left homeless at the front page of the New Vision as Uganda secures global award. Which award is that? Read about it in the New Vision. Then we cross the borders to Kenya. The Daily Nation is highlighting education. A Bugoma public school has received 300 new learners since January. Exodus, parents ditch academies. Why is that so? Read about it in the Daily Nation. Now, friends again, Ruto, Raila and power of a picture. Read about the meeting between Ruto, Raila and President Museveni just recently here in Uganda. Then also, graft, here's how rogue county staff steal from public coffers. As in the perspective of crime, my 5-hour ordeal in hands of robbers. That is with the Daily Nation. Lastly, from our press review is the Citizen newspaper. Tanzania's horticulture lands new market. As in the Rising Woman, how Imelda is blazing a trail in the security industry. Then besides that, emotional farewell for Arusha crash victims, as government is set to leverage Samia's 4 Rs in tax system to boost investment. Also, Zanzibar liquor importers face fresh hurdle. That is with the Citizen today. And that brings us to the end of our press review.
Well, before we even move on to the inspiration song, Sonko, you had a headline there that Medshira Bandai have a bombastic side eye why government salaries may delay.
Good morning.
I believe that is a headline. No government worker wants to hear.
From the New Vision, the public service revealing that.
Just coming
Yes.
from the longest month. That is January now.
And
And
February is
February.
ending tomorrow, by the way.
Yes.
So
Well, we will take a short break and we'll leave you with a Chris Brown. Yes.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
I lost my way somewhere and now another galaxy. Too much to take, these memories ending in tragedy. In all of these places, all of these faces, I didn't wanna let you down. And all these mistakes of mine, I can't replace it. I gotta move on somehow. Healing energy on me, baby. All I really need's one thing. Healing energy on me, baby. Can you make a wish for me?
Over the last couple of days, we will yet see what today is going to turn out like, but at least yesterday was a beautiful day because the weather was at least where we know it. That is the Ugandan weather that we know, the beautiful weather that is written about and sung about the Pearl of Africa. Speaking about the Pearl of Africa, have you visited Uganda? Have you traveled around Uganda? Well, we will take you around Uganda through our Tourism Express segment, so you should not miss that. But of course, we will have topical discussions again as we do every single morning. That is in our news bill at 7 and of course during the agenda segment at 8. So stay with us. We will also have business news for you and of course travel tips and traffic updates. That's what we do as Good Morning Uganda. Now, we have been speaking about something right before we went on air, and of course it has something to do with the head of Ndiga clan, Engineer Bossa, that was gunned down on Sunday. And news coming in shows that the people who killed him are actually also people from the Ndiga clan. But I digress a bit. Today in Uganda, it has become so common for people to move around with guns. And in most cases, you won't know if they have these guns rightfully or if they do not have these guns rightfully. Because we have security agencies, you're going to find an askari with a gun, and if they are wearing plain clothes, you may think that maybe they are off duty, that's why they have a gun, and probably they have it rightfully. Yet we know that in Uganda, you can only have a gun if you have been given a license to carry one by the government. So where are these people getting the guns that they are using to kill people? A police report from 2023 showed that last year we had over 4,000 shootings in the country. That number is alarming. Welcome back, Chirawa Robert.
Thank you so much. I'm happy you guys, you've been doing a very good job. I've been enjoying sitting, of course, week, but seeing what the young lad and the beautiful ladies are doing here. And of course, our viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Now, first to begin with, you talked about the question, where are the guns coming from? It is very saddening that we lost the head of the Ndiga clan. But one thing that at least we have relief over is, first, the gun was recovered. And the exact gun that shot. Now, security agencies must be accountable to Ugandans this time round and tell them where the gun came from. How did it get in the hands of these people? Because we know most of the guns were marked. This was an AK-47. Most of these guns were marked, the president directed, so it's easy to account for a gun. Is it among the illicit weapons that are on the market? Is it from the UPDF? Is it from police? Is it from prisons? Because AK-47 is not a usual weapon given to people who have licenses. They usually give them other guns because of the danger and nature of an AK-47. So we need to know. The world is waiting. Ugandans are waiting to know the source of that weapon, where it came from. So that will answer then also ballistic experts to tell us from the police forensic lab and all that, has it been the gun used in the previous crimes? Remember when we saw the shooting of Pastor Bujingo, Ismail X, they say the pistol is the same. So we are so eager to know more about that. But by and large, we continue to call upon people to be vigilant, because these young fools, I want to call them that. Sometimes His Excellency gets upset and uses the word PIG, you know, because more or less they are that. Were able to be arrested and one killed because of public vigilance. These one security forces that arrested these.
And speaking of public vigilance, the Member of Parliament from Chira Municipality yesterday during plenary asked why it is that for over 3 kilometers the assailants were being...
To pay, dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obwebyenanda obwivwa eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wanu ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira kusani fish farm ebuyikwe inside day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusaako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2020 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo $40 okuva mu operation werese creation era okuba yongereza ku emmere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okubanga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okubanga tubuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okubanga buli saawa efaayo okubanga efeeri y'Abannayuganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for being a part of us. I'm Olive Monica Najama, joined by Chantal Olive Akandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko. Now today we look into a matter that is of concern and should be of concern to you, a guardian, to you, a parent, and even to you, a teenager. And it is the reports coming in from the Ministry of Health saying that 18% of maternal deaths in Uganda is comprising of teenage mothers. So they say that they sounded an alarm saying that the rising prevalence of teenage pregnancies, which is now accounting for a troubling 18% of maternal deaths in Uganda. And of course, now here we look at different ways through which we can combat this, but also how much information do the youth have regarding their lives. It goes without saying that 70% of Uganda's population is comprised of young people, and among these is where you're going to find the teenage mothers. Now, when we speak about teenagers, we speak about girls between the ages of 12 to the ages of 18 or even 19. But of course, 19, 20, 21, those are young adults. But if we are to mainly focus on the teenagers, then we are looking at the ages of 12 to the ages of 18. As we know, in the pandemic, we had tens of thousands of girls that ended up pregnant because they were kept out of school for over 2 years. And we know that for you to safeguard a girl child, to make sure that they have a good future, then you must keep them in school. That's why we have programs like UPE, USE. These programs are intended to not only educate children in Uganda, but also to ensure that young women have a better future by staying in school and getting an education so that they can now make good and informed decisions about their lives. But now we have 18% of teenagers dying. We have 18% accounting for maternal deaths in our country. That number is alarming. And that's where I bring in Chantal Olive. When we speak about maternal health or sexual and reproductive health for teenagers, where are we supposed to start as we talk to young women and even the parents and the men?
Well, the conversation would start from the reasons as to why we are seeing more teenagers conceiving at an age where they are not supposed to be conceiving. We would have to assess what do they know. We would have to assess what causes them to be in the certain place where they are. And of course, that's when now we go back to how much information do they have on reproductive health. How much information is out there on sexual related health and sex. Those two are related. So which conversations are there? Which information is out there for the teenagers to know? What do they know? What don't they know? What are the myths? And how do we then get to have these conversations freely and guide these teenagers and make sure that we get to reduce these teenage pregnancies? So the conversation goes back down to the reasons as to why. And some of the reasons are we don't have enough information out there. And this goes back down to the construct of you can't talk about sex because apparently sex is I'm looking for the word in English, but chiba chive, to talk about it
taboo.
Taboo, yes, to talk about it to a certain age bracket. But lately, if you're very keen, a 10-year-old, maybe even P5 will come out, Daddy, what is sex? And they will ask. Some will ask. Those who are bold enough will ask. And now your response determines what happens with that child's mind after that. I would highly advocate for child development and child development from certain ages, yes, but where you develop this child's brain to process these things, to understand them, and make sure that when I explain to you that, listen, this is what leads to this. So when you, for example, when you get involved with a boy at this age, these are the likelihoods, these are the challenges you're likely to face. This child will go back and they would have understood what you have tabled, what you've explained to them, so that we get to have a holistic conversation on sex education, on reproductive health, a conversation that will help our teenagers make their choices correctly, if I may say.
Now, that's a very important context. Now, let's dig into deeper analysis regarding this. Dr. Henry Mwebesa, the Director General of Health Sciences at Uganda's Ministry of Health, said that it is critical and it is important to have adolescence in human development. Can we look at that? What does he really mean when he says that?
Well, he's actually putting it out there that we have these stages in life. And how we respond to these stages is now the major, part of the coin, or what you could say, something that we need to focus on. We've all gone through this adolescent stage.
Yes.
Many body changes come in. That means even how you react to certain things, always it's because of the body development and the like. And I think he was trying to put it away from the major point, which is parents have to pay attention, or even the society has to help these young ones or teenagers through this development stage.
Yeah, he went ahead to say that there is need for collaborative efforts to address the myriad challenges faced by the youth, and among those he noted that there is need to have more accurate information. Yes,
and then besides the accurate information, but then also trying to know how do we deal with these young people, and their body changes, because many of them at times when they receive these body changes they go in hiding, or they are afraid. They're only sharing with their colleagues, or others actually even scared to open up to their parents to say that this is happening. And at times you get to realize that, when you look at these cases, you realize that if a family is failing at addressing such issues, then society takes shape. Right. Now, the worry is with society, you're going to find different characters. You will find goons, you will find people who are willing to help, but sadly, the goons are many who are willing to take advantage of this scenario, who are willing to rather exploit than help, this new adolescent to actually go through this phase, understanding that this is a stage in my life development, and anything I do can lead to this. And these are conversations that at times we do not have. Even when you to go back to, to the curriculum in regards to how teachers talk about sexual health in most of the schools, or let's say reproduction, many of them do not want to go into the actual terms. They shy away from them. They rather use biological terms. But again, you're teaching someone about their body. Then that means what you think is going to be obscene is the reality.
So what you're saying is that we need to stop shying away from having sexual and reproductive health conversations with teenagers.
Yes, reminding them that in any kind of sexual act you're engaging in, these are the repercussions. Because before we even go into the, to the maternal death, the very first point is you're engaging in a sexual act. Yes,
do you know how this is going to affect your body?
And those are the conversations
exactly. Yesterday I did have a host who was, I did have a guest who was talking about, pregnancies, and he was saying, without even beating around the bush, there is no way we are going to hide the fact that the only way someone gets pregnant is through sex. So that means if we are to have these conversations and reminding the teenagers the issue is, first of all, what leads to the maternal death? It's because, one, you're pregnant. And during the pregnancy, there are lots of things that happen.
Right.
That if at all you do not do the right things, or if you're a bit unfortunate, it may lead to the death. So, and for the young people, you have to remind them, pregnancy happens at a stage when you are ready for it, when your body is ready, and these are conversations that you need to have.
I like when you say that, when your body is ready, because you may not be ready mentally, but the body is already at a stage where it can actually welcome a baby, like where it can have a baby. Because some people believe that because I'm this age, I cannot get pregnant. Or because we do it like this, I cannot get pregnant.
Well, you talked about human development and the fact that there is a part where they're advocating for involving adolescents in human development. And the part that human development does is it helps give you what I would call a certain bit of self-awareness. It helps you understand your body as well. And this is what helps this person to know, okay, it's about this time of the month. I am ovulating. We all know what happens when you're ovulating. Probably, you know, your hormones are up there. That means if you're not careful during such a time, if you make a mistake, you're likely to conceive. Do these girls get to have these conversations anyway? Do they have anyone sitting them down and tell them, listen, that phase where you feel like you are on fire, you can actually hold it, and it's just a few days, and you'll be out of it, and you will be okay. And it takes practice as well. It takes someone to be, you know, to be with these people and show them that consistency helps them even narrow it down. It helps them to know there's alternatives to things like, instead of putting your mind to how you're feeling in the moment, distract yourself, get a book to read, go swimming, find an activity to do, and before you know it, these things will be done. Do they have people who actually boldly tell them, listen, when you're ovulating, your hormones are up there, you're going to be horny almost the whole day? They don't tell them these things. And because they're not told these things, that is why you'll find this girl does not know what to do. She feels, one, shy about it, because even the teacher feels shy about it, the auntie feels shy about it, the mom feels shy about it. Now, if they're not having this conversation with this girl, she's likely going to make that mistake, because she will not know. She'll be like, I just felt like this and I didn't know what was going to come after that. Or she will not know that it was bad timing, that this boy or this man walked up to her during such a time. It's a weak moment for most of those who don't have self-control. It's a weak moment. So what am I trying to say? Let these people know that during such a time, you're going to face this. Let them know that even other women face it, but this is how they go about it. This is how to control yourself. This is how to build like a line of protection for yourself to avoid some of these things. If we don't have these bold conversations, we are still going to have these
Because when you also
issues.
look at the statistics that we've had, for the past 5 years, the rate was at 25%. And just slightly, just in a period of a year, it only dropped to 24. That's 1%.
1%, yes.
So which shows that the efforts that the government and the strategies that the Ministry of Health has actually been putting in place are not working out as such. And we cannot, you know, point everything now to the government, because most of these things are happening within societies that we are coming from. So when we are looking at, you know, the rise of maternal death, and 18% of that
Teenage mothers.
Teenage mothers, imagine, it becomes alarming for a situation that, one, you're having teenage mothers, again, two, you're losing them.
Also, the Ministry of Health says that over 18% of close to 3,000 maternal deaths registered annually in the country is comprised of teenage moms, like we have already said. But also, I would like for us to know, how does teenage motherhood affect Uganda's development?
A lot more. Because you're looking at, as we're looking at empowering the girl child, you do realize that, I think for a couple of times I've got to interact with, let's say, educated women. And of course, I'm now seated between two educated women. Sandwiched with brains of land people. It translates to what society can perceive from a woman. Because back in the time where women were only known to be mothers and stay-home kind of people, and from 16, 17, 18, someone is giving birth. Now, you're losing some of those years of productivity that you could give to the government. Okay, it may not be to the government, but to society.
To the country,
exactly.
To the economy.
You know, to the economy. Because, believe it or not, there is always a stage where everyone's career comes first, where everyone has dreams and aspirations. The dreams may not be as huge or as big as that, but you also want to have something that you can look back at in your retirement age and say, before I got into marriage or before I gave birth, this is what I was able to achieve. And you know, with the rising cases that we have today, you realize that again, it becomes, it leaves women in a more vulnerable state.
Yes.
Because we all know that at times, women, however much we look at stronger women today and we say they are empowered and everything, they've always been biologically the vulnerable, you know, gender.
Yes.
And if someone gives birth at an early age of 14, 15, 16, that means you're now losing close to 5 years.
So
And
here we are looking at...
you know, first of all, you're taking care of your child.
Yes.
At that age, you really know less about childhood development. You're
I mean,
still a child.
This is a child taking care of a child.
So by the time you click 40, you've skipped phases.
Certain phases, yes.
Of your life, of your youth. And this is also hindering development of society, because your contribution to society becomes less. Your entire mind is now based on taking care of your child.
That's true, because here now we are looking at loss of career, loss of human capital to the country, death in the family, and when they die, they are leaving behind young babies. Now, we all know that a child needs to exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months of their lives, but now there is no mother, and it means that they are now susceptible to different illnesses, which will now, in a way, increase healthcare expenditure for the government. Now, this is where I would like for you to join this conversation through WhatsApp number 0709602592 and through the hashtag UBCGMU. And we are asking for your opinion on what can be done to combat the high mortality rate among teenage mothers. How can we handle this? We'd like for you to join the conversation, and we know what you think of this. Now, there is a comment from Bernard Onen. He says, the day when those who wish to repeat senior for... Bernard, you're commenting on the wrong topic. You're commenting on the wrong topic. He's asking about when those who wish to repeat senior for...
Since yesterday, we'll be giving you, Bernard, more details.
We will be giving you more details, Bernard. But for now, we are speaking teenage pregnancies. So, looking at the fact that this is costing the country human capital, but it is also increasing healthcare expenditure by the government, because the biggest service provider when it comes to medical care is the government itself. Now, what can be done to combat? I'll bring the question back to you. What should we do as a country to combat, first of all, the teenage pregnancies? We should not be having them in the first place. These people are supposed to be in school, right? And two, to ensure that when they do get pregnant, at least we don't lose them.
The boy child needs to be empowered the same way they're empowering women. And which kind of empowerment? Conversations. Because it does seem like we are preparing the girl child and raising them to come to society with unruly men, where the men themselves do not really care about the outcomes of anything. Because when you also look at some of the reasons as to why some of the teenage pregnancies occur, rather maternal deaths occur from teenage pregnancy, some of those are led by abortions. And you see, these young girls at times, by the time they abort, there is someone backing them. Either one, the person who impregnated,
a friend,
or a friend,
a relative.
So when you empower the young boys in regards to knowing that their duty as men is to grow and provide for their families or do something important in society, rather than putting all their energy into sex-related offenses, if I'm to put it in that way. That you are a man today, what makes you a man is not only what you possess in regards to what you put the other side, but then what else can you offer to society? And you see, the funny part here is, even with conversations, women today will have honest conversations with their girlfriends, and even with the girlfriends. They would say, you know what, we need to study we need to become this and this. And your mother will come out and say, well, when I take you to school, you have to do this, you have to make sure you avoid boys. All of these conversations are there. But on the side of the boys, at times you realize, and a father who is supposed to be in that picture, to try to shape this boy child into a better individual in society, at times these fathers are absent.
Can I tell you why?
Please.
Can I tell you why? Initially, the boy child was not seen as someone who is affected by a teenage pregnancy. Do you agree with me?
True.
Because
he's not carrying the
thank
baby
you.
after all.
If a one Derek impregnates a one Chantal, Derek will proceed with school, get done, and life moves on.
And
then the
can
Chantal
even change place of residence.
Then the Chantal will have to now go through all the phases of you've given birth, you're sick, the child is this, you probably won't finish school and stuff like that. Not knowing that over time, it's going to affect the child that is being raised. Over time, this girl is going to, one, grow a certain bitterness towards men, is going to have an effect on society. And the more we have these things happening, the more we are all affected as a community. The boys and the men were never told that in the long run they are also affected by the fact that we have a bunch of girls and women that are struggling as single mothers because of teenage pregnancies, that are struggling as grown women because they have bitterness towards the man that probably raped her or defiled her or got her pregnant and then she got abandoned. All those things and were never looked at, and that is why the boy was not really looked at as someone to talk to. But right now, if the boy knows if I impregnate this girl, first of all, it is selfish. I shouldn't, because some men actually impregnate these girls intentionally. Or some don't even bother to know whether she gets pregnant or not.
But again, who is giving them the example?
But isn't it also hypocritical that as a society we have
we point fingers?
Yes, thank you. We have reduced ourselves to pointing fingers to teenagers or women that became pregnant, girls that became pregnant, because yes, she's 15.
The stigma, yes.
How do we handle? How do we combat the stigma that is surrounding teenage pregnancies? Because it is partly the reason why some of them do not seek Medicare antenatal services quickly, because they are embarrassed.
Even in school where they actually expelled,
exactly.
And the entire school is actually aware that this one was expelled.
Well, yet you could actually expel this person.
There are actually a few schools that will allow you to even continue with
well,
maybe...
actually you're setting a bad example for the fellow students, apparently.
Which is... Okay.
Partially true, yes, but...
It is. Many others actually return during UNEP to only sit the exams.
But then again, all of you asked what can be done. One, let's first devise means of making sure that we reduce these teenage pregnancies even further. Yeah, from 25 to 24%, that is a very small decrease that we shouldn't even be looking at as a decrease.
That is in a period of 5 years.
Thank you. So in this case, let's, for one, put ways in place, have these conversations to enable us reduce the teenage pregnancies. Make sure the people who are, say those who defile, those who rape these girls, one, they face their punishments. Then two, when by bad chance it happens and this girl gets pregnant, let's not stigmatize them. Let's make sure there is health, there is a provision of health care for them. Let's make sure there is support for them so that when they're out of that stage, they get to heal physically, emotionally and psychologically for their lives to move ahead. Otherwise, we are still going to be in the same circles if we don't have the conversations to stop the teenage pregnancies, but also if we don't get to support those who unfortunately conceive when they are still teenagers.
And some of the complications that teenage mothers may face, according to obstetricians, it is a high blood pressure in pregnancy compared to a mother who is an adult. High blood pressure is the second major killer of mothers. This is according to Dr. Henry Mwebesa. So it's been acknowledged that the government is not satisfied with the progress in fighting against teenage pregnancy, but more work towards that is being done. But it takes collective effort between you and I, the guardians, the parents, and even the brothers and sisters. And like Uncle said, men have to be brought into this conversation. Young men have to be brought into this conversation because actions have consequences. And in this case, pregnancy that sometimes leads to death. Well, my name is Olive Monica Najima. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, Pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
So more and more people find wild animals in their gardens because they have nowhere more to hide. So they seek refuge in bushy areas and things like that. And over the last 5 years, I believe this is the 7th pangolin which was brought to us from the local community when they're clearing their fields or clearing their gardens. We always notify UA from the very first one we have. They normally send a team and then they translocate them to the national parks. The pangolins we get here are the white-bellied tree pangolins, so they're forest species. And as of recently, they've always taken them to Chibale, which is probably a suitable habitat because it's safe there, and there are tree pangolins there. Recently, we received a team from UA, however, with a directive that they should take it to Lake Mburo, which doesn't add up because these are tree pangolins. They shouldn't be in the savannah. They can't survive there. But nonetheless, we've always been giving them to UA, notifying them immediately, as we will as well today. Only the last 2 or 3 pangolins which we received, we asked UA at some point that since the community keeps bringing them here and since they are displaced from the forest, that UA might consider leaving 1 or 2 of them here as ambassador animals. Because in all of Uganda, there's no any place you can see a pangolin. If you go with a school class today and you say we want to see a pangolin, there's nowhere in Uganda you'll see one. It's only by good luck you will see them in the forest, but that's not something you can guarantee. So from that point of view, we believe it would be to the benefit of the nation to at least have a place where people and students and even researchers, even UA staff themselves, even custom staff for sensibilization purposes could come and actually see the pangolin. So we have a lot of animals which are termite feeders, specialist feeders which only eat termites, as the pangolins are as well. We have bat-eared foxes which also only eat termites. So we have a lot of experience with these specialist feeders, and we've had bat-eared foxes for at least 5 years. And we have 1 pangolin now since 3 months, which is doing very well. I will actually show her to you later. Her name is Sally. And this one has just arrived now, so we will notify UA We will check if it's a male or a female. This is an older pangolin compared to Sally, which you will see later. You can see it's still covered in dirt. Pangolins, they are quite defenseless, so they pretty much rely on peeing and pooping on you. That's their defense. This looks like it is a male. And this is a full-grown white. You see it's peeing. That's how they defend themselves. They're so defenseless. They don't bite. They can't really scratch or much. So they'll just pee on you, hoping that you will leave it alone. They're beautiful animals, unfortunately highly trafficked for Chinese traditional medicine purposes. But they're the most humble, most gentle, most friendly animal, other than peeing on people. I think we can put her back so that she doesn't get stressed. They're friendly, very, very friendly and harmless. Okay, let's just temporarily put her here so that she can relax. Okay. So this is Sally. Sally is a white-bellied tree pangolin. We've had her now for 3 months. She was rescued by the community, or let's say found by the community when they were clearing their gardens. Same like the pangolin which you saw them bringing today. We've today received the 7th pangolin over the last 5 years from the community. The reason why they keep finding them is because, as you know, the forests around Mityana and Butambala districts have been cut down over the last few years. There's very few forests left. So a lot of animals have been dispersed from their habitats. These pangolins are forest dwellers normally. So now that the forests have been cut down, they are moving into people's gardens and patches of bush. So people do find them more and more. And when they do come across them over the last few years, our community, since they know we work with wildlife, they've been bringing them here for safe custody. Then we notify UA. UA picks them and introduces them to safe areas like Chibale National Park. For the first 5 or 6 pangolins, UA has always taken them there. Then, as of recently, we asked UA that they might want to consider to leave one pangolin here as an ambassador animal, because there's nowhere in Uganda you can actually see a pangolin. Now, most people will have heard about pangolins because they're heavily trafficked for Chinese medicine, but few people have ever seen a pangolin alive. So that's why we believe it would be very good for the country to have at least one facility which keeps pangolins. The problem with pangolins is they're specialist feeders. They only eat termites and ants. And it's a bit tricky to feed them in captivity. That's why few zoos around the world have them. And that's why we're happy that we can say Sally has been here for 3 months, and she's actually gained a lot of weight since she's here, and she's doing perfectly fine. And I think it would be very nice if the country would have at least one place where people can see and learn about pangolins. So therefore we hope we'll be able to keep Sally here. No, we have specialized food for them. In Europe, they've
Well, what a humble mammal a pangolin is. We were having a conversation with Olive on how humble people are, especially those who are attached to it as a totem in Buganda. And well, maybe for all of you who belong to the same, you can agree with what Olive was sharing with me this morning. But well, it's time for us to check into the world of business. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Good morning once again. We kick it off with climate green funding. As we look into the matters to do with climate change, you realize Uganda is struggling to rebuild its lost forest cover, as environmentalists have emphasized the need for government to adopt the participatory forest management, where the communities around forests should be involved. Now, environmentalists urge that the government can gazette some forests to communities and ensure that we have a clear benefit of mechanisms between government and the communities, which will enable the communities to jealously guard and protect the environment. Because as we are looking at matters that can address climate change worries, this is one of the things that we need to consider. That is reforestation as well as looking at afforestation as a means of protecting the environment, safeguarding what we do have, and also putting an end to deforestation, because as far as we are concerned, these are some of the things that clearly affect the climate. Now, the environmentalists are urging government to involve communities living near endangered ecosystems like wetlands and forests. If it's to increase the rate of forest cover in Uganda, that means we have to protect the forest cover. We also have to stop evading in wetlands, or we need to stop wetland encroachment. Now, currently, Uganda's forest cover has reduced from 24% in 1990 to 13% currently. So when you look at 2 decades apart, 2.5 decades apart, we have already decreased the forest cover halfway. So from 24% to 13%, then who knows, if we continue with this kind of trajectory of minding less about our environment, then we are likely to lose it all. And according to Dr. Peter Byabenda from the Makerere University Best Environment for Development Initiative, points out that the system has fully worked for countries like Nepal, which have recorded its forest cover from 29% to 45%. So many of the other countries that we look at are rather protecting the environment. As much as they were having such issues, they are now looking at ways of protecting and keeping their green cover alive. And it's something that we are failing at the moment, because if you're an individual, you are an investor who's encroaching on the wetlands, you're cutting down trees and the like, then you are limiting the growth of this forest cover that was once a beauty to watch. And it's still a beauty to watch for areas that have preserved this environment, because one of the reasons as to why we are one of the best destinations for tourism is because of the fact that besides behind the Pearl of Africa line or narrative, it is because of the environment, the forest cover that we had back in the time. And for now we are left, or we are limited to that because of our human activities pretty much, and then our failure to protect and preserve the environment. So as we are addressing climate change, it should be something that we can look at collectively and see how we can put an end to the same. And now we head to the office of the Prime Minister, as Professor Jeffrey Sachs, a renowned world economist, says that Uganda needs to borrow more money to fund development interventions, or else remain entangled in poverty. Now, this comes at a time where some local economists have been bashing the government for alleged high debt burden and of the country. As Professor Sachs made the remarks while meeting ministers, government agencies that are led by the Prime Minister, Right Honourable Robin Anabanja, the office of the Prime Minister. That was yesterday. Now, Professor Sachs is in Uganda as a follow-up of the Sustainable Development Goals meeting that took place in New York last year, where the Prime Minister made a presentation at the UN on behalf of the government of Uganda. Now, Uganda needs effective strategies to address the complex poverty, which is part of a global battle. Human-induced climate change, international debt and financial crisis, and support national economic reforms. But besides that, all of this require budget funding, which renowned economic Professor Sachs says that Uganda must borrow to finance this development agenda. Well, borrowing as a way to finance this development agenda, though again the government is worried about excessive borrowing, because at time as of now we are still trying to finance the growing public debt. And the economists further proposed that Uganda needs to acquire long-term loans that require repayment for not less than 30 years. So it should not be something that is short-term. So we should focus on a long-term kind of thing if we are to meet the sustainable development goals. And just lastly, something to note here is that from the office of the Inspector General of Government, new developments are coming in from there, as she is set to probe district service commissioners over fraud. The Inspector General of Government, Betty Kami, has revealed that her office has started a countrywide research and probe into district service commissions to curb high-flying report of job sales. Of course, there are reports coming into the country whereby people who are going into the public service have to first buy a certain job to get it. So, of course, an audit is going on from the IGG's office to ensure that these cases are closed and, of course, to arrest those who are engaging in such acts. And, of course, the IGG decried that this particular district service commissioners who persistently use fraudulent means to eliminate suitable public job hunters is something that the IGG wants to put an end to this particular year. So the focus is to ensure that this set of corruption, or this level of corruption, is not something that continues in the country. Now, lastly, from our business news this morning, we head to the forex market to see how the different currencies were faring by close of business Tuesday. Before you go out to exchange some currencies, you will realize the US dollar was buying at 3,943.17 while selling at 3,933.17 selling at 3,953.17 by opening time, and closing time saw the US dollar buy at 3,929.75 while selling at 3,939.75. Then further, the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,981.31 while selling at 4,955.99. As on Monday, by the way, it had already shot to 5,000, the Great Britain pound. Now here is a slight decline, a little bit. The euro was buying at 4,264.95 while selling at 4,275.81. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 27.00 while selling at 27.07, and the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.54 while selling at 1.55 shillings. Lastly, the South African rand was buying at 203.89 while selling at 204.41. So that is how you will definitely find these different currencies if you are to head into the forex market. And well, I'll be back tomorrow to give you more details from the world of business. But as of now, it is time for us to check in with the traffic updates in and around Kampala with Olive Monica Najuma. Good morning.
And this morning again, we traverse the roads of Kampala and surrounding areas. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome to the traffic updates. Well, if you're coming from Hoima Road, we are right now at the roundabout that takes you from Nansana into Namungona, then Kasubi, Nankulabye. Then we will be going through Makere Hill Road into Wandegea. How is the traffic situation in these areas? This is what we are going to find out right now. Now, as you can see at the roundabout where we are situated at the moment, there is a few red zones coming through indicating traffic jam, both coming in from the side of Nansana and also coming in from the side of the bypass, that is from Kaleri, that is coming in from Busega side. But also I see a bit of traffic jam that is coming in through from the side of Gayaza, that is around Kaleri, feeding into the roundabout. The good news is that at this juncture, it is not yet intense. So let's see how the rest of the road looks like going forward. Now, continuing through the areas of Namungona right after the roundabout, that is the situation you can see on your screen. We have those orange zones indicative of slow movement of traffic. Now, going forward, we see now that the slow movement of traffic has now turned into intense traffic jam in the areas of Namungona, and continuing, it goes on up until when we reach the intersection that has Bawalakata Road. And for those coming in from Bawalakata, I see that the situation isn't any better. From what we can see here, some parts are actually intense with traffic, and for the most part, Bawalakata is a red zone. So if that's where you're coming from the sides of Namungona using Bawalakata Road to join Hoima Road, that is what the situation looks like as of this minute. Now, going forward, let's see what Hoima Road looks like. It seems like for those coming from Kampala, going the side of Hoima Road, Nansana, Wakiso, and those coming through to town, the situation is not any different. There is intense traffic, especially for those coming to the city center. There is intense traffic, but also those going the side of Wakiso, Nansana, the situation is not really different. Yes, there is light traffic for those going, but still it will cost you some time. Now, still continuing, we see that the red zones continue along Hoima Road. If you delay to leave home this morning, or if you have a meeting coming up in the next hour, you should be on the road right now, because the disadvantage is that this route does not have so many alternate routes that you can use to reach the city. So you might find yourself in this snake line going through traffic jam and losing time. Now, going forward still with Hoima Road, the situation doesn't change much. Now, as Chimera Road joins Hoima Road, around Kasubi roundabout, we see that there is a bit of traffic jam coming through from Chimera Road, joining Hoima Road. Now, Masira Road, there is no traffic coming from that side, so you should be able to move smoothly, whether you're coming to the side of Kasubi or going to the side of Kasubi. You are in luck, at least from what I can see right now. There is a smooth flow of traffic. Now, let's continue after Kasubi and see how we transition into Nankulabye. From what I see, there is smooth flow of traffic, at least in the area of Nankulabye, which is also along Hoima Road. Continuing in the center, we see that now we are starting to encounter traffic jam in Nankulabye. And the situation doesn't look good at all. It's rather grim, because for those coming to town, now from that corner around Masiro in Kasubi, then right through Nankulabye around right through Nankulabye, we are experiencing intense traffic jam. It goes on until the traffic lights that are in the center of Nankulabye. Now, I see that for those going or coming from Balintuma Road, there is smooth flow of traffic, and also Motesa 1 Road has smooth flow of traffic. And if you're continuing to the areas of Bakuli, you will encounter a bit of a delay, because I still see red zones in this area. Now, let's see how Makere Hill Road looks like from Nankulabye continuing into Wandegea. For some time, there is light traffic, and then there is smooth flow of traffic up until the traffic lights that join you to Sir Apollo Kagwa Road. We see that there is a traffic jam, intense traffic jam actually, that is coming through from Sir Apollo Kagwa Road, but we are still going to follow the route of Makere Hill Road and see how you can get through to the areas of Wandegea. There is light movement, slow movement of traffic from Makere main gate, Makere University main gate, and what we see is that actually shortly after the gate you're going to encounter traffic jam. Even those that are going to the university itself, there is a slow movement of traffic and intense traffic as you head to the university gate. Now, continuing to Wandegea, in the middle of Wandegea, I see intense red zones in this area. Bomba Road is bringing in traffic jam, and then I see Haj Musa Kasule Road also bringing in intense traffic jam, feeding it into the center in Wandegea. So if this is where you're headed, well, the situation doesn't look any better for you. Actually, I see that there is a traffic jam coming through from Buganda Road, joining Haj Musa Kasule Road. Now, you need to, at least here, you have alternative routes that you can use. So think and devise different ways of seeing that you get to the city center without many an encumbrance. Well, that's all that we had for you in our traffic updates. Up next is Agenda with Robert Chirabo. My name is Olive.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center.